Welcome, deep divers, to a journey into the heart of, well, modern business mythology.
Yeah, it really is kind of mythic sometimes, isn't it?
Totally. Take a moment, just think about it. When you hear about a tech giant or maybe an industry shaker, who pops into your head?
It's usually a person, right? A name.
Exactly. Is it Steve Jobs, with his legendary chase for perfection and those game-changing products?
Or maybe Elon Musk with these huge, almost sci-fi visions for, a multi-planetary future.
Or Jeff Bezos, the
Yeah.
guy who built that massive, sprawling empire we all know as Amazon?
Yeah. It's kind of remarkable how much we feel we know them, these individuals.
Right. Their personalities, their little quirks, their, I don't know, almost superhuman drive. It
Yeah.
feels like we know them almost as much as we know the companies they built.
Uh-huh. So what is it about these figures that just grabs our collective imagination like that?
Okay, so let's unpack this deep dive. It's all about looking closely at what we've sort of come to call the cult of the CEO.
That great man theory applied to business.
Precisely. And we're going to question whether this really intense focus on just one leader, is it actually healthy? Is it accurate? Is it even, sustainable long term?
Does it maybe hide the more complex reality that success usually is a team sport, a really collaborative effort?
That's the core question.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to offer, let's say, a constructive critique
Yeah.
of this founder worship and the sometimes crazy expectations it puts on leaders.
And explore the dangers, too, creating a culture that just spins around one heroic figure instead of maybe a more resilient, collaborative system.
Exactly.
And to help us navigate this, we've pulled together a pretty fascinating stack of sources. We'll be digging into those intense, almost biographical stories you find in books like Walter Isaacson's Steve Jobs or actually Vance's Elon Musk.
Yeah, the ones that give you those really close-up glimpses into their minds and methods.
Right, but we need to balance that. So we're also bringing in more analytical stuff, more systemic work on management, strategy, team dynamic.
Like Peter Drucker.
Exactly. Drucker, Ray Dalio's principles, some of Jim Collins's organizational studies, even dipping back into Machiavelli for historical perspective.
Okay, interesting. So a mix of the personal and the systemic.
That's the idea. These different viewpoints should help us understand not just what makes a leader charismatic, but what actually builds a company that lasts. Something that thrives long after the founder's initial spark.
All right, let's dive straight into those big, iconic founder stories. Because these are the powerful narratives, right? Often really compelling, that fuel this founder worship.
They paint these vivid pictures of individuals whose sheer force of will, their singular vision, sometimes even their, let's be honest, abrasive personalities, have completely reshaped industries.
Yeah, not just innovated, but totally turned things upside down.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me. How these figures just become larger than life, almost mythical.
Their actions get framed as the reason for the company's success or failure.
Like it all rests on their shoulders.
And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how these narratives, even if they're partly true and definitely inspiring, they can accidentally create this really strong template for what we expect from all leaders.
Like this is the only way to be successful.
Kind of, yeah. This focus on the hero can make us overlook other critical things. The underlying systems, the work of countless other people, market conditions, even just luck or timing.
Right. It makes the extraordinary seem like the only path.
Yeah.
And the individual genius the only driver. So when we talk visionary founders whose personalities are just completely tied up with their companies, I mean, two names jump out immediately, Steve Jobs and Elon Musk.
Absolutely. And their leadership styles, while undeniably effective in building these world-changing companies, they were far from conventional.
And often came with a pretty significant human cost from what we read.
Oh, definitely. You get the sense their brilliance was like a force of nature, maybe a hurricane force one sometimes.
So take Steve Jobs. Isaacson's biography really paints a picture, his guidance style. Let's just say it wasn't for everyone.
Mildly put, yeah. He was just relentlessly focused on doing the right thing for the product, for the customer experience. It wasn't about him being right personally or being agreeable.
That pursuit of perfection could be almost pathological.
And it often meant a high human cost. He was known to, terrify employees. Isaacson talks about acerbic outbursts.
And the famous reality distortion field.
Right. His unique ability to convince himself and then others to believe things that seemed impossible or maybe weren't quite true yet. Using charisma, rhetoric, sheer persistence.
It shows the huge pressure and, frankly, the fear that a single powerful leader like that can create inside a company.
It really does. And it's kind of amazing people still followed, often against their better judgment, even in that harsh environment.
But even Jobs, with all that intensity, wasn't totally immune to outside influence, which I think is a really crucial point, though maybe rare.
That's interesting. Like, what?
Well, there's that example when Pixar was starting to work with Intel. Jobs apparently wanted to charge Intel for advice on improving processor capacity for 3D graphics.
Bold move for a new partnership.
Right. Intel's engineer refused, said it wasn't helpful for partnership. And Andy Grove, Intel's chairman then, sent Jobs this blistering reply.
Oh, really? What did it say?
Basically reminded him that sharing ideas is what friendly companies and friends do for each other.
Wow. How did Jobs take that?
Apparently, he initially thought Intel was arrogant, but then he actually backed down. He said something like, I have many faults, but ingratitude isn't one. I've changed my position 180 degrees. We will freely help.
Huh. That is interesting. A rare chink in the armor. It shows even these singular visionaries, they still operate in a network, right? And sometimes reason or maybe reciprocity wins out.
Exactly. Now, shifting to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Ashley Vance's biography gives us a similar picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Intense, hands-on involvement, often unconventional, demanding.
Yeah, his dedication at SpaceX, especially early on, was incredible. He was personally unloading equipment, setting the tone.
And designing that signature factory aesthetic. The glossy floors, the white paint.
Right, to feel cheerful and clean. A huge contrast to traditional aerospace. It was more than just taste. It was imposing a vision, breaking down barriers.
He even mixed up the desks, right? Computer scientists sitting next to welders.
Yep. A direct break from how aerospace usually silos people, all aimed at fostering immediate cross-functional talk.
But that drive also meant immense pressure, almost ulcer-inducing pressure, as Vance puts it.
Oh, yeah. That story about the SpaceX engineers needing to build a slick-looking mock-up rocket for a government presentation.
Right. The engineers thought it was a total boondoggle, a waste of time, not helping the real rocket tech.
But for Musk, it was strategic, absolutely necessary to get that crucial government backing, a visual they needed.
So it's a clear case of the founder's big picture vision getting funding, just overriding the team's immediate engineering concerns.
And leading to huge workloads, personal sacrifices. It shows how the founder's goal dictates everything, no matter the internal view or cost.
And this singular focus, it shapes how Musk sees himself too, doesn't it? His place in the industry.
Totally. He famously couldn't understand why other automakers weren't moving as fast into EVs. He really believed Tesla moved the needle for everyone.
It reflects that visionaries' deep belief in their own unique, transformative impact. Like they're setting the pace, and others just need to catch up.
Yeah, it's a powerful self-narrative, groundbreaking leadership.
Okay, another really powerful example of a founder just stamping their personality, their philosophy onto a whole company is Jeff Bezos at Amazon.
Oh, absolutely. Bezos didn't just build a company, he meticulously built a culture. Frugality, customer obsession. It became legendary. Amazon's DNA.
You have to talk about the door desks.
You really do. The iconic door desks.
Yeah.
Made from cheap Home Depot doors. It wasn't just about saving money, was it?
No, it was like a physical symbol of a core value, frugality. All driven by Bezos's big vision, be the price leader and customer service leader for the long run.
And new hires questioning the desks. They got the same answer with withering consistency.
What was it again?
Something like, we look for every opportunity to save money so that we can deliver the best products for the lowest cost.
It just shows how a founder's small decision, based on their philosophy, can become this entrenched, almost unquestionable cultural thing for decades. Shapes everything.
Totally. And, like Jobs, Bezos is consistently described as, well, extremely difficult to work for.
Yeah, the stories about acerbic outbursts, relentless challenges, being a micromanager with a limitless spring of new ideas.
Reacting harshly if things didn't meet his super rigorous standard.
And the sources even make that direct comparison to Jobs, right? Saying Bezos also casts a powerful reality distortion field.
They do. And it's not just a coincidence, I think. It highlights that immense, often overwhelming influence these founders have. Their vision isn't just persuasive. It becomes the reality inside the company.
Makes it incredibly hard for different views to get heard. Takes real guts to push back.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From tech giants to the rough and tumble world of 80s finance. Michael Lewis's Liar's Poker gives us this unforgettable picture of John Gutfreund at Salomon Brothers.
Right. Lewis says Gutfreund stamped his personality onto an institution. His faults as well as his virtues were those of Salomon Brothers.
That just perfectly nails this idea, doesn't it? A whole company revolving around one single, almost theatrical figure. Their traits become the company's traits.
And what was so striking of Godefroy was the contradiction, right? His public image versus the reality.
Exactly. Lewis describes his statesman-like calmness in formal settings, this image he cultivated, the wise elder.
But behind closed doors.
A totally different reputation. Brutal power plays, striking terror in the hearts of managing directors. The gruff, foul-mouthed traitor underneath the statesman veneer.
So the cult isn't just charisma. It can be built on this mix of careful public image and private fear. Almost Machiavellian.
Yeah, the persona itself was a tool, even if people knew it wasn't the whole story.
And Lewis offers this really powerful counterpoint, doesn't he? From the perspective of the junior guys, the grunts on the trading floor.
He does. He observes that the grunts were better able to diagnose the problems of our business than the generals.
Wow. That suggests a huge, dangerous disconnect between the top leadership caught up in power games and the actual grand-level reality of the business.
The people dealing directly with the market often had the clearest view, but their voices got lost in a hierarchy dominated by these strong, singular personalities.
Makes you question that top-down, founder-centric model when things get complex and dynamic. You need input from the front lines.
And the danger of relying so heavily on one person became painfully obvious when Salomon hit trouble.
Right. Yeah, Lewis writes that when market forces met gross mismanagement and infighting, it just fell apart.
He says, it was as if we had no management at all. No one put a stop to the infighting. No one gave us a sense of direction.
Chilling. It's a stark warning, isn't it? When an organization gets too dependent on one person's perceived genius or lacks robust systems beyond that founder.
When that central figure fails or gets distracted or just can't overcome the internal chaos, the whole thing can crumble. Because the systems for collective decision-making, for conflict resolution, they just aren't strong enough.
A vacuum opens up.
Oh.
So all these real-world examples, intense, fascinating. What does it mean for how we understand leadership? How we even perceive genius and power as a society?
Well, it's interesting because these real-world stories are echoed, maybe even amplified and given a kind of philosophical backbone in certain narratives that celebrate the individual above everything else.
So we're thinking of Ayn Rand.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger cultural picture, a book like Rand's Atlas Shrugged is this extreme idealization of the individual, often a lone genius, set against the collective.
You have to ask, does that kind of philosophy feed into this great man theory of business? Does it provide a sort of cultural justification for worshiping founders?
It seems plausible. It presents a world where individual brilliance is the only real engine of progress.
Her characters, like Dagny Taggart, the railroad boss, or Hank Reardon, the steel guy, they operate with this almost superhuman conviction.
Unwavering. They make huge personal sacrifices for their vision, and they absolutely refuse to compromise their principles or their standards, even when society and government are against them.
They embody that individual will, a relentless drive against perceived mediocrity, bureaucracy, collective sluggishness.
Forces of nature driven by their own internal compass of what's right and productive, no matter the obstacles or what anyone else thinks.
And the book really champions that individual creative power, self-reliance, independent thought above all else.
Portraying these figures as the true essential drivers of progress, often defying norms, standing alone against the mob.
And you can see how that narrative resonates deeply with the visionary founder archetype we've been talking about.
It reinforces that seductive idea. Progress comes mainly from a few exceptional individuals, these titans, not from the messy, cumulative efforts of many.
It creates this powerful mental model where the lone genius isn't just admired, they're seen as essential, irreplaceable, and anything hindering them is like a betrayal of progress itself. Okay, so these stories, these narratives of singular genius, they're undeniably captivating. But if we take a deeper, more critical look, relying only or even mostly on one heroic figure, well, it comes with big limits, real dangers.
Right. The actual story of lasting success is usually way more complex. It's built on a foundation of collaboration, strong systems, shared responsibility.
So let's unpack this a bit. The allure of the hero is strong, almost mythic, like we said, but it often papers over some critical truths about how organizations really survive and thrive beyond that initial spark.
And what's really interesting when you look closely is how many genuinely successful, long-lasting organizations actually thrive despite this great man idea. Or maybe even by actively countering it.
How so?
Well, Their longevity, their impact, their ability to adapt often comes from embedding values deep in the culture, empowering leaders at many levels, and building processes that outlive any one person's time there.
So it's the difference between a company that had a great leader and a company that is a great organization.
Exactly. That's a subtle but really crucial distinction.
It's just so easy to fall into that trap, isn't it? Believing the CEO, especially a founder CEO, is all-knowing, has all the answers, sees every angle.
It's a romantic view, but it ignores basic human fallibility. Our sources really push back against this idea of the infallible leader, no matter how brilliant they seem.
Like who?
Well, take extreme ownership. Written by former Navy SEALs Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, they have this really pragmatic military take on it.
What do they say?
They state it plainly. The CEO can't predict what you won't get or understand. She's not perfect. None of us are. Things are going to slip through the cracks from time to time.
That just directly undercuts the whole idea of the all-seeing leader. Emphasizes that mistakes happen, even at the top.
Right. It's not about judging the leader's intelligence. It's recognizing that any single person has limits overseeing a complex operation.
And they go further, don't they? About leadership itself.
They do. They say effective leadership isn't one person leading a team. It is a group of leaders working together up and down the chain of command to lead.
That's a really strong counterargument to the great man theory. It's all about distributed collaborative leadership.
Yeah.
Spreading responsibility.
Precisely. And this idea connects to how organizations mature and sustain themselves over time. Clayton Christensen talks about this in The Innovator's Dilemma and How Will You Measure Your Life?
What's his take?
He says that in startups, early success often comes down to its resources, its people, especially the founding engineers. Their talent, their vision gets things moving.
That initial burst of creativity is crucial. Yeah.
But Christensen argues, over time, the locus of the organization's capabilities shifts toward its processes and values.
Ah, okay. So it moves from people to systems.
That's the key insight. Individual talent is vital at the start, but sustainable long-term success depends more and more on institutionalized capabilities. Repeatable processes, a strong culture, shared values that work somewhat independently of any single person's heroics.
And there's a danger if that shift doesn't happen.
A very real danger. He warns young companies can flame out if they fail to create processes that can create a sequence of hot products after that first big hit driven by the founders.
So the great man might like the first fire, but the great system keeps it going, ensures ongoing innovation.
Beautifully put. Without those embedded processes, the company stays dependent on individual, maybe fleeting newbie genius. It's fragile.
So as companies get bigger and more established, the role of individual managers might actually shrink in a healthy way.
Christensen suggests that yes, in well-structured companies, a lot of the guidance and efficiency comes from the processes and is less dependent upon managers. The organization itself starts to self-regulate more.
Through established norms, procedures, a clear cultural framework.
Exactly. So the foundation for consistent performance isn't just hiring more brilliant managers. It's about embedding intelligence and capability into the very fabric of how work gets done. You know, even some legendary founders have maybe implicitly critiqued the founder worship around them. They understood these deeper organizational truths.
Like Sam Walton.
Like Sam Walton. In his autobiography, Sam Walton Made in America, he mentions how people wrongly gave all the credit for Walmart's amazing success to his CFO, Ron Mayer, and all his folks.
Just focusing on one person or department.
Right, and Walton quickly corrected that. He said it ignored the fundamental basics we had in place, all our principles, keeping our costs down, teaching our associates to take care of our customers, and frankly, just working our tails off.
So he's pointing to systemic practices, ingrained principles, and the collective effort of everyone, not just one person's genius.
Exactly. It was a culture of shared sacrifice and customer focus, a powerful statement from the founder himself.
And his foresight went beyond his own lifetime, didn't it? That famous warning to his grandkids about selling stock.
That I'll come back and haunt you line. Yeah. It wasn't just a quirky threat. It showed his deep desire for the values and systems he built to last. Beyond him, beyond even his family's immediate financial gain.
He understood the strength was in the culture, the operational excellence, not just him, and those needed protection.
Another great example is Nucor, the steel company. Jim Collins and Jerry Porras highlight them in Built to Last.
How did Nucor succeed? It wasn't a charismatic CEO, right?
No. Their success came from harnessing culture and technology to produce steel. And the central idea was aligning worker interests with management and shareholder interests through an egalitarian meritocracy largely devoid of class distinctions.
Wow. So success through shared culture, equitable systems, accountability, not a dominant leader.
Precisely. Collective purpose, clear metrics, fair structure, empowering everyone from the factory floor up.
And then there's Starbucks. They became more than just coffee, didn't they?
Very much so. Howard Behar, a former president there, articulated this philosophy. We're not in the coffee business serving people, we're in the people business serving coffee.
That's a famous line.
It is. He added, our entire business model is based on fantastic customer service. Without that, we're toast. It highlights a foundational model, a culture of service, that's way bigger than just Howard Schultz's initial vision.
It's an organizational identity built around human connection. Permeates everything, makes the company resilient.
And Schultz himself demonstrated this too. His habit of going back to the very first Starbucks store in Pike Place Market.
Yeah, when things got tough with executive decisions or bureaucracy.
Exactly. It was his personal anchor back to those core values. It shows how even founders need to reconnect with the company's essence, which is often broader than just their personal vision. It's rooted in that collective customer experience, those shared values.
A reminder to focus on the system, the people, the mission, not just corporate hierarchy. #tag C. The reality of leadership flaws and shared responsibility. Okay, let's get real about leadership for a minute. It's not about flawless people executing perfect plans, is it? It's much more complex, messier, making people work together effectively.
Absolutely. And Peter Drucker's writings on management are just foundational here.
The father of modern management. What's his core idea?
He defines management's main task as to make people capable of joint performance, to make their strengths effective and their weaknesses irrelevant.
That's a huge redefinition. Leadership isn't individual brilliance. It's enabling the collective, making the team's strengths work.
Exactly. Creating an environment where everyone contributes their best and individual flaws are covered by other strengths.
And Drucker also had that insight about mistakes, right? Like with promotions.
Yes. He said in a well-run company, if a decision like a promotion doesn't work out, they don't just blame the person. Instead, they conclude that they themselves made a mistake in the hiring or placement.
So accountability shifts to the system, the decision maker, the process of management, not just the performer.
Precisely. It acknowledges that outcomes are systemic, fosters continuous improvement, not just blame.
Which also means effective leaders have a responsibility to the whole organization, right? Beyond personal loyalties.
Drucker argues they can't tolerate non-performing individuals in important jobs. It's not about being harsh. It's about the collective, good, efficient operation.
Prioritizing the system's health over maybe a leader's personal choices or biases, maintaining the team's integrity.
And this idea of humility, admitting mistakes, focusing on truth, it comes up again and again as a counter to that infallible, great man ideal.
Even Steve Jobs, known for being demanding, apparently said something along those lines.
Yeah, he famously said, I don't mind being wrong. And I'll admit that I'm wrong a lot. It doesn't really matter to me too much. What matters to me is that we do the right thing.
That highlights a focus on the objective outcome, not personal ego. Pushes back against the founder always having to be right.
And Kim Scott in Radical Candor builds on this. She says, people who are more concerned with getting to the right answer than with being right make the best bosses.
Crucial distinction. Valuing intellectual honesty over ego.
And we see this in different leadership styles too. Look at Satya Nadella at Microsoft. His leadership is described as humble, forward-looking, and pragmatic.
And he worked well with the engineers, right?
Exactly. It's a stark contrast to the demanding visionary model. Shows the power of collaboration, empathy, questioning, not just imposing a singular will, leading through partnership and curiosity.
Reuniting a culture of learning, not just issuing commands.
And while raw talent and vision are vital early on, they're not always enough for mature growth. Radical Candor notes that when extremely bright but inexperienced people lead, sometimes adult supervision is needed.
Not meant to be patronizing.
It's just realistic. Even brilliant people benefit from structure, experience, seasoned guidance to turn potential into sustainable success. Genius needs a framework to flourish without crashing.
Okay, and one last piece here, often overlooked. Leadership isn't just top-down. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely critical point. Gabbaro and Cotter, in that classic Harvard Business Review piece, Managing Your Boss, they highlight cases where failing to manage upward was incredibly costly.
Like millions of dollars costly.
Yeah, $2 million to $5 million lost on a single missed opportunity because of that failure. It really underscores that subordinates have an active role in the relationship with their bosses.
Effective leadership needs engagement from all levels, not just passive following.
It's about actively communicating mutual expectations, potential issues, not just assuming things. Creates a dynamic where info and feedback flow both ways, making the whole system smarter and stronger. You know, the dangers of putting too much power, too much responsibility, too much expectation on one single person. They're not new ideas. History and political philosophy give us some stark warnings that apply right here.
Like Machiavelli.
Like Machiavelli. In The Prince, he famously says a ruler, wishing to hold his own, to know how to do wrong and to make use of it or not, according to necessity.
Which sounds a lot like some descriptions of those ruthless, all-powerful CEO types, feeling unbound by normal rules to get things done.
It does, and it defines leadership by that one person's traits, cruel or kind, fearful or not, reinforcing the risky idea that individual qualities, not principles or collective wisdom, determine everything.
The very things that make someone powerful can make the institution fragile if unchecked.
And even Machiavelli, the ultimate pragmatist, warned that hatred or contempt has been fatal to rulers. Even absolute power depends on managing how people feel about you.
You can't just ignore the human element, the social fabric. If resentment builds, it can bring down the leader or the whole organization.
A crucial lesson for any CEO who thinks their vision alone guarantees loyalty and performance forever.
And we saw the real-world outcome of this unchecked power, where personal flaws become institutional flaws, back in Michael Lewis's story of Salomon Brothers.
Exactly. When market forces hit, combined with gross mismanagement, a lot of it fueled by hubris and infighting and that top-heavy, personality-driven culture, the firm just got thrown into deep trouble.
And Lewis's observation was devastating. At times, it was as if we had no management at all.
No one put a stop to the infighting. No one gave us a sense of direction. It's just a stark picture of how a firm, even one with a strong culture built around a personality, can just dissolve into chaos.
When leadership fails to make tough calls or provide clear direction beyond charisma.
The lack of a robust, distributed management system, clear roles, shared accountability, left them totally vulnerable when the central figure's leadership wasn't enough.
It created that vacuum where coherent strategy, unified action were desperately needed, but just gone. Okay, so if the great man theory is flawed, and we've seen the real dangers of relying too much on one person and unchecked power, what does effective, resilient, sustainable leadership look like today?
Right, in this complex, fast-changing world.
Yeah. How do we move past the hero story to build organizations that are truly robust, adaptive, that thrive for decades, not just under one founder's rule?
It's a huge question, isn't it? And it seems to be about fundamentally shifting our focus, moving away from relying almost entirely on individual brilliance, captivating as it is, and towards cultivating collective intelligence, building strong, adaptive structures.
So it's not about getting rid of leaders.
Not at all. It's about redefining their role, making it primarily about empowering and enabling others, not just dictating from the top. Designing an organization that can outlast any single personality. Hashtag A, empowerment and distributed leadership.
A key piece of this new path, this different way of thinking about leadership, has to be genuine empowerment.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. John C. Maxwell, in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, says something really powerful and almost counterintuitive about this.
What's that?
Only secure leaders give power to others.
Huh. Secure leaders, not insecure ones hoarding power.
Exactly. It's not just a nice saying. It highlights that empowering others is actually a sign of strong, confident leadership. It contrasts directly with leaders who fear losing influence if they distribute power.
And those are the ones who often contribute to founder worship and make their organizations fragile.
Right. And Maxwell even gives practical advice on this. He suggests when your team grows beyond a certain size, he says maybe around 7 direct reports is the limit for real individual oversight leaders have to start thinking differently. They need to begin thinking in terms of creating a smaller inner circle group or layers of empowered, trusted deputies to effectively distribute leadership.
It's not optional at that point. It's necessary for scale. Acknowledging that one person can't oversee everything directly.
It's a strategic must-have for growth, not just a nice-to-have delegation preference.
And Drucker's ideas really back this up too, framing what distributed effort actually looks like.
Yeah, his idea that management's job is to make people capable of joint performance, to make their strengths effective and their weaknesses irrelevant.
It's such an enabling definition. The leader is orchestrator, building a synergistic team, maximizing contributions, making sure no single failure point exists.
Drucker also stresses the need for any business enterprise to build a true team and weld individual efforts into a common effort, making sure all the pieces fit together to produce a whole without gaps, without friction, without unnecessary duplication.
It outlines that systemic need for teamwork. Individual brilliance has to be integrated into a smooth, functioning whole.
And he talks about a shift in accountability for knowledge workers, too. Leaders shouldn't just assign tasks. They should demand subordinates take ownership of their contributions, asking explicitly, what are the contributions for which this organization and I, your superior, should hold you accountable?
Wow, that promotes accountability flowing up and sideways, not just down. Fosters a truly shared sense of purpose and responsibility. Everyone owns their part. Hashtag tag tag me be. Processes, values, and idea meritocracy. Okay, so beyond empowering individuals, the resilience and longevity of a company seem to increasingly hinge on its institutional stuff, its processes, its values.
That's what Christensen emphasizes in The Innovator's Dilemma, that critical shift. Early success relies on resources, its people, the founders. But mature capability shifts to processes and values.
And that shift is crucial for lasting success.
Yeah.
Beyond the founders.
Absolutely. It means managers facing change have to constantly ask, do our organization's processes and values actually fit this new problem? It underscores how vital adaptable structure and systems are, more so than just individual directives.
It's about building a learning organization capable of evolving, not just relying on a few heroes. Processes become the company's memory, its capability.
And a really fascinating example of a highly structured, systemic approach to decision-making, one that deliberately tries to sideline hierarchy in favor of objective evaluation, is Ray Dalio's idea meritocracy.
Right, from his book Principles. It sounds almost idealistic, but it's quite rigorous, isn't it?
Very. He defines it as radical truth plus radical transparency plus believability-weighted decision-making.
Okay, break that down.
The goal is an environment where the best ideas win, period, regardless of who suggests them, by subjecting all ideas to open, honest critique.
Radical truth and transparency.
And then weighing them based on the believability of the person proposing it in that specific area, not just their job title.
So it's not just rank, but relevant expertise.
Exactly. And he slams traditional corporate culture where people are basically doing two jobs, their actual job and the job of managing others' impressions of how they're doing their job.
The impression management game.
Right. An idea meritocracy aims to kill that. Eliminate the politics that often feed founder worship and stifle real feedback. Force everyone to focus on objective truth and the idea's merit.
We also see process-driven approaches in leadership development itself, like Blue Ocean leadership.
Yes, from Kim and Mauborgne. They use that visual tool, the leadership canvas. It helps leaders systematically figure out what activities to eliminate, reduce, raise, or create to engage employees better.
It's a way to sort of demystify leadership, make it actionable, not just charisma.
It's very systematic. A clear, collaborative method that isn't dependent on some guru. And their idea of leadership fairs is clever.
How do those work?
They present the as-is canvases, showing current leadership activities, and the new leadership profiles are discussed only at an aggregate level, anonymized.
So no one feels singled out.
Exactly. It makes individual leaders more open to change because they feel that everyone is in the same boat. It fosters collective responsibility, humility, shared growth, instead of individual blame. Turns critique into a constructive, systemic improvement project. Hashtag tag tag C, strategic thinking beyond the individual.
Okay, finally, truly resilient companies seem to engage in strategic thinking that's much bigger than just one CEO's intuition, no matter how brilliant they are.
Definitely. A.G. Lafley and Roger Martin, in Playing to Win, they lay out this really structured, rigorous approach to strategy. It's inherently collaborative and analytical.
What's the framework?
It starts with really understanding the industry, then moves methodically to understanding customers deeply, then critically assessing your own capabilities and costs, and finally analyzing the competition.
So it demands a systematic process. Data, analysis, iteration, not just a gut feeling from the top.
Right. Insights from one step might reshape your view of earlier steps. It ensures decisions are well-founded, collaboratively checked. reduces the risk of a single blind spot or an ego-driven mistake. Strategy becomes an organizational capability.
And Kim and Mauburn's Blue Ocean strategy also emphasizes tools for collective strategy, like the strategy canvas.
Yes, the idea is that drawing the canvas visualizes your current position and helps chart the future strategy in a clear, shared way.
So everyone gets on the same page.
It allows the whole team to focus their main attention on the big picture, rather than becoming immersed in numbers and jargon and getting caught up in operational details. It's a tool for shared understanding, shared direction, democratizes the strategy conversation.
And Blue Ocean thinking also pushes companies beyond just fighting over existing customers, right?
Critically, yes. It advocates looking beyond existing demand towards non-customers and desegmentation opportunities to find that blue ocean potential.
Creating new market space by reimagining needs outside current categories.
Exactly. Challenging the usual focus on current customers and competitors, encouraging a broader, more innovative view of the market. And that's driven by a strategic principle, a shared analytical framework, not just one leader's sudden insight. It's about systematically creating uncontested market space. Hashtag outro peg.
Wow. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We journeyed from those really captivating stories of visionary founders Jobs, Musk, Bezos, whose huge personal drives undeniably shaped massive companies.
Right, through to the cautionary tales about relying too much on those singular figures, exploring how those powerful stories, while inspiring, can create that cult of the CEO, which might hide the real complex foundations of lasting success.
And we saw how even incredibly powerful leaders like Sam Walton at Walmart or Satya Nadella rebuilding Microsoft operate within and sometimes even push back against the very systems they lead. They recognize the power of collective effort, of strong processes.
Yeah, they seem to understand that while individual vision can ignite a company, give it that initial push, it's really the embedded values, the resilient systems, the distributed leadership that ensures it lasts, ensures its long-term impact and vitality.
So this deep dive, it really seems to show that while individual leadership is crucial, absolutely vital for direction, true, sustainable business success might be less about the great man or great woman on the pedestal.
And far more about the great system, the culture, the processes, the empowered teams all working together.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus, moving from that romanticized image of the lone genius to the powerful, maybe less sun, reality of collective intelligence and shared responsibility.
So here's maybe a provocative thought to leave you with. As you see the next big business headlines celebrating some CEO's singular genius, or maybe you find yourself admiring an amazing entrepreneurial story.
Pause and consider this.
Yeah, consider what unseen teams, what unsung processes, what deep fundamental values are really powering that success underneath the surface. Perhaps the true mark of a genuinely great leader isn't just how brightly they shine alone,
but how brilliantly they enable everyone else to contribute, innovate, and thrive within a resilient, collaborative, and strategically smart system.
It's kind of an invitation, isn't it, to look past the spotlight maybe and into the real engine room of great organizations?